You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you a little bit about our current sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. As you well know, if you've been following This is Oklahoma, they've been a huge part of this podcast. So this podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode in Arcadia today in a beautiful barn. Can you show me around this place when we get done? Because this place is awesome.
Absolutely.
But my guest today is Brett McPherson to talk about, I guess, home designing, building, interior design. And if you're watching the video in the backdrop, you'll see we're upstairs in your beautiful home or beautiful barn. I love those green chairs you've got behind you. I have a thing about green chairs, the wing-back green chairs with kind of the Winchester style, right?
Yeah.
Is it Winchester style? Mm-hmm. The buttons just reminds me of like old pub stuff. But we could talk about design forever. But before we do, thanks so much for inviting me into the house and coming on the podcast. A lot of people can go to your Instagram. While they're listening, if you want to shout it out real quick.
Yes, Designers Brew.
Designers Brew. Okay, and if you don't want to go to that right now, I'll post it in the description so you can go to that and check it out and follow Brett's cool stuff. So, where does it start for you? Like born and raised Oklahoma?
Oh man, I grew up on a cattle ranch in western Oklahoma, so very small town, and I grew up in a town in a time where interior designers were not a thing. And so when I was in the 5th grade, a girl moved to Butler, Oklahoma from California, and she knew about designers. And I was like, well, what's that? And so in the 5th grade, we started staying in from recess, and we would design houses instead of going outside to play basketball, which I was not good at.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just always wanted to do it. And my dad thought I'd lost my mind. So he actually had an electrical contracting company, and then my mom was a teacher, but he did that until he could buy enough land to farm and ranch full time. And so I always grew up with him bidding floor plans, and I don't know, they always fascinated me.
Yeah. So living in a barn then is your childhood basically, right? Coming and designing this place?
So
full circle?
We bought this land, and we were going to build a house on this. Yeah. And we were like, well, we'll build a barn house and live in the interim. But I said, well, if we do that, I don't want to live in like the basic metal barn.
Right.
Like that's the
I don't cliche red and white.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. And so I think I got my husband into a little bit more than he bit off for, but I said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it really, really cool.
Right.
And we justified kind of making it a little grand because this is going to be our headquarter offices. When we're done building in the Lark, we're going to office there while we build there. And then when we build here, this will be our design center and construction headquarters.
All right.
So
planning always planning.
Yes,
That's
always
really
planning.
Good. Yeah. So from that young age then, your friend comes from California and you think design's a thing now. We're going to design and instead of playing with Barbies, you're playing with the Barbie's house and designing Barbie's house, right?
Yes.
And you
Way
get
more
into
fun
that.
than Barbie.
Oh, for sure. But obviously you're out in the country, right? You grow up riding horses.
Yes.
Shoveling horse.
Yes.
All of the stuff, all of the hard work.
We didn't have a bougie barn where we brought our horses in. So I didn't actually, muck a lot of stalls growing up, but we did have horses and cattle all growing up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I muck a lot of stalls now.
Like we are in a working barn, right?
Yes.
So from that young age then, I guess you have your idea set on I'm going to design stuff. Mm-hmm. Is it I'm going to do this, everything I do now is towards that, as in like school or you have a general childhood and like, I go to ride horses and it comes back around?
So because of my dad's electrical business, he had worked with a few designers, and he he was not encouraging of this career, but at the same time he was, because he said, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to do it right. And so one of my very first jobs, he had me go work at Ace Hardware. And so I learned paint and plumbing and, lumber and all of the things, which I think is so... My husband, which builds, he says I have a lot more construction knowledge than normal, which I'm thankful for. But I root it back to, I worked for a cabinet shop and I worked for Ace Hardware. And so, yes, every single step along the way has been a building block for me.
Well, and at the time you probably didn't think it was valuable, but now it comes around and when you talk to your clients about cabinetry and hardware, and
totally.
Like, oh, she actually knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
Right. Rather than most designers, I say most, majority of designers don't have that background. They come in and they talk about paint, colors, and design, and not the physical hardware itself.
Yes. So I've been working in the industry to some degree since I was 16 years old. So that's 23 years now. Yeah. So
that's awesome. But it's all towards, like you said, it's all towards, you're servicing your clients now, right? And at the time you might not have, you're working at Ace Hardware, you don't think it's glamorous or it's going to give you anything.
It's definitely not glamorous at Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
No, but I did learn a lot.
Yeah. What did Dad want you to do? You said he didn't want you to become a designer.
He wanted me to be a school teacher.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I would be in prison if I was a school teacher, though. That is not my cup of tea.
I don't know how people teach. I just, I mean, power to them.
Or my nanny. I'm like, I don't know how you do your job. I know you're taking care of my kids every day, but I don't know how you do that.
No, it's a skill.
It's a gift.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
No, I agree with you. I've said this many times on the podcast. I wouldn't survive.
Teachers should be our highest paid position.
I agree.
Of anything.
Yeah.
In the whole world.
Yeah, they put up with a lot of crap.
Commend.
And don't get paid enough for it.
No. Commend all of them.
So he would have had you as a teacher in the local town then?
Oh, yes. Yes. And marrying a farmer because, I got my summers off, so.
And you'd have been working on the farm that summer too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about your mom? What did she want you to do?
So my mom, I will say they were very encouraging of whatever we wanted to do. So it was more like they shook their heads in silence and you knew that what they thought, but they weren't openly discouraging of it. And so when they learned that I was serious about it, they supported me. I really don't think they thought I was going to be able to pay my bills though. Even graduating college, they're like, okay, now what?
Right.
But
slowly waiting for that dream of yours for you to realize, hey, this isn't possible. I need to go get a job, get a job, right?
Yeah. Well, luckily, simultaneously, when I was in college, which would have been about 2000 to 2005, I feel like HGTV was really becoming a thing. I mean, really for the first time. And I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but the internet was kind of just becoming a thing, within the last 10 years of that period. And that was a game changer for our industry. So you couldn't sit at home and Google and Pinterest before then.
Right.
But all of these things worked in conjunction in the period when I entered this field that absolutely changed it for everyone.
So raise more awareness so people realize what's possible for their own house, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when they realize that their husband says, hey, I can do this, and he tries and he fails, then they call in a professional.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
I just skip that phase and say, to my wife, we need to call someone in because I'm not even trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Know your weaknesses.
100%. She's happy that I did say that as well. So you just mentioned university. So you're going through high school, designing all this stuff, working, and the design is on the brain, and everything's working towards come around to go to university. Where do you go and what do you study?
So at that time, in about 1999, 2000 is when I graduated. Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, they were one of the top 10 design schools in the nation. So I didn't grow up being a huge Pokes fan, but that's where I chose to go because they were really the best in the country, and they were FIDER accredited and all of these things. So I went there because of their design school for sure.
So when you go to Stillwater, you go to design school. for those people who aren't aware, what is it? What is design school? What's it like? What's day to day like?
We just like fluff pillows.
And talk about paint codes, and that's it, right? Like,
totally.
What do you do all day?
So you start in a drafting class.
Okay.
You really start from the basics. So you take art classes. You study historic art, current art. You take actual art classes where you're doing art. I took tons of drafting classes, drawing classes. Lots of people don't expect this, but a lot of science classes. So a lot of textile. Studying fibers and the chemistry of all of that. Lots of math. Math is so vital. Yeah. I use geometry and algebra on a daily basis all day long. So those things aren't, you don't really think of that being.
I never would have thought that you said that. Math would have been a big thing.
Math is a huge thing. I'm calculating things, square footages or cubic footages or lighting. I took actual classes just to study how to illuminate a room and like how the shadows would work and the casting and like how to off balance that. Shading of purposefully doing that or purposefully lighting up art or whatever. Art history, I mentioned that. Furniture history, like we took classes that so we could study where the roots of furniture came from and the design and the designers in history, before design was really a true thing, but there was still Charles Eastlake and a lot of historic people that put themselves on the map. And
you dive into ergonomics and all the rest of it that goes in.
Ergonomics, totally. I'm trying to think what all the courses were.
What was your big project that you did? Did you do like a final project every year, or was it just your senior year that you did a huge project?
No, we did projects. We had big projects a lot. So we would typically do like one per course per semester. So, so a lot of people don't know this, but when you enter as a freshman, I don't know if it's like that now, but when I entered, there's about 100 freshmen that come in for design school, but they only accept 33 students at the end of sophomore year.
Wow.
So you could be one of 67 students that got cut easily. So you had 2/3 chance that you were not going to get into design school. And so you kind of had to roll the dice, like how bad do you want this coming in freshman year and thinking I'm good enough, I'm going to make the cut.
Right.
Or I'm going to take 2 years of college and like either you have to wait a full year to reapply to design school. Yeah. So thankfully I made the cut. But if you don't, like you could take those hours, a lot of them, and put them towards a merchandising degree or something like that.
Would they get design as a minor as well?
I don't really think that was an option.
You didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't really think I had a roommate that didn't make design school, and she minored in, or she just switched her major to merchandising.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people it's a very difficult program.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's not like you have to be super intellectual, but you have to be very dedicated. I took tons of AutoCAD classes and computer classes and,
that's all changed now, right? With all technology and everything. Now it's much easier now than it was, doing AutoCAD. And I had a couple of back home, it was design technology classes. And I loved them because we got to do, build stuff and hang out. And I used to walk into this is super UK as well. I used to walk into my teacher's classroom and just put the kettle on and have a cup of tea with all my mates and my teacher and talk about what we're going to do today. Yeah. And we had like a laser cutter and all this stuff. And cool. Some of the best stories that we've got, from high school are from that teacher, Mr. Canton, who's hilarious.
It's funny how you remember
we used to build
them.
stuff, right? We used to build furniture or chairs or shelving was like our projects that we did. And with the laser cutter, I think I just designed like a kid's puzzle or whatever, super easy to do. I think I still have it back home somewhere. Probably looks terrible, but at the time I thought it was the coolest thing ever, right? It was like a tractor.
Yeah. In high school, in high school I had a wood shop class and I built a headboard and I loved that.
Right.
One day
There's some pride you get, isn't there, from making something new? Like, I've made this with my own hands.
Yeah.
And it's smooth, and
Gives
you
you an
spend hours on it.
appreciation
And
for things.
when someone gives you a file, right, and you're like, this is perfect because I spent hours filing it. It definitely gives you a certain sense of appreciation.
Yes.
So back to school, then you make the cut, and then like, I'm clearly good at this now because I've made the cut, and I passed on. Your parents, another way to prove to them that you're clearly going to be good at what you do.
Yeah, so that's like an 8-hour exam.
Yeah.
And so you go in that morning for that exam, for the admissions exam, and you design an entire house that day. So you draw a floor plan, you do a furniture plan. I still to this day don't know how we did all that we did in those 8 hours.
In one sitting, 8 hours,
sitting.
one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's intense.
I mean, I don't even remember taking a restroom or a lunch break that day. Like, it was very intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you make the cut.
I made the cut.
And then you go on to what is design school then of those 33 people.
Yes.
And then is it just kind of, because the class is now shrunk, it's probably more focused on, it's more intimate, it's more focused, and you dive into so much stuff.
You better like your classmates because you have every class all day, every day with them for the next 2 years. So it's funny because if people are like, oh, I know so-and-so in design school, you never met them because you only had your year. Right. So you couldn't take classes outside of your year. So they very much went in sequence.
Yeah. So you didn't really have much of a college life then, as some would as others, I guess,
I would say it's
experience.
Different for sure. Yeah, because you spend all of your time in the labs.
Right.
Either the computer
kind
labs
of a lot
or
like an athlete then. Kind of similar, right? Because college athletes.
I mean, I guess so.
The hours that you probably spend, that they spend being an athlete, you spend in the lab and stuff.
Architecture school's very much the same way. Only there's, you're in just a little.
Yeah. But did you go to games? Do you have time to go to games and enjoy the sports
I worked in college and
I
waited tables. And so my big days to make money were game days. Yeah. So unfortunately, I went to very few games because I was working.
Where did you wait tables?
Stillwater Bay.
Okay. Is it still there?
No, it's not. It was one of Stan Clark's 4 restaurants. Okay. And it's, I think he only has one now.
One survived, but it's the most famous one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was up there last weekend for homecoming.
You were?
I didn't go there, but my father-in-law was a huge KU fan, unfortunately.
He didn't have a good weekend.
No, he did not have a good weekend. But
he didn't have a good weekend at all.
We went up there, and friends of ours get tickets. So I got a text last week saying, hey, we have tickets. Do you find someone to come with us? And I was like, this is
gorgeous day for a game.
I'm already like the favorite son-in-law.
Of course you are.
Guaranteed my brother and sister-in-law aren't listening to this, but I'm already the favorite, and now I've kind of cemented myself as a favorite because they had really good seats. But what surprised me, on 2 occasions, we're in town. We went to Fuzzy's for lunch first, and then went from there to the Copper Penny to have a few drinks. And he doesn't drink, so he drove, which was great for me.
Yeah, that's great.
So on 2 separate occasions, 2 people came up to him and said, "Welcome to Stillwater."
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, we were in town for like 3 hours already, right? And I'm like waiting for someone to give him crap.
Right.
Because he's like,
he's decked out.
Yeah, head to toe.
Yeah.
Like, and he's 6'5" as well. Like, he's not small, and he had KU hat and t-shirt and pullover. I mean, the whole thing, right? And he's in bright blue and everyone else is in black and orange. And 2 separate occasions, someone came over and said, cool. "Welcome to Stillwater." And I was shocked. Yeah. I mean, I'm not now because like Oklahomans generally nice, but on game day,
that makes me
waited
happy.
Someone to give him like a little bit of, bit of jip, but nobody did. And
that's
like,
awesome.
I kind of wanted somebody to, right? Because he's kind of like, he would say something back in a nice way, and like he's very
like,
kind
this
of.
Could be fun.
This is I'm waiting for this moment, and it never happened. I'm like, even when they were like down by 50
so
points,
happy.
Yeah. So he did enjoy himself, just not watching the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, great university, great town.
Good to hear.
I was kind of like proud, and I never went to OSU, but I was taking him there as an OSU fan, and I was like, this is kind of a cool thing. I didn't expect it.
It's a large university, and I have a client. Her son is there right now, and he got COVID, and so I had to tell the school why he was going to be in quarantine and stuff. And there's a team within the university, and they called him to see if he needed groceries or food or medicine. And I was just like, that's a large university, really nice. And they had,
a dedicated team.
Yeah, a dedicated team for that. And I'm just like, that's just the heart of how that school runs.
Yeah, it's
which is cool.
It is really cool. So back to yourself. Last 2 years of design school are very, very intense, but it goes extremely well because obviously you have a job in it. Where do we go from kind of, I guess, like senior year graduating, and do you go get a job somewhere?
Yeah,
do you
so you take an internship.
Okay.
And I
during your school time or after?
Yeah, so between your junior and senior year, you take an internship. It's required for graduation. And I was one of the very few, I think 28 of us ended up graduating. And I think I was one of two that was choosing to go the residential route. I had no interest in commercial.
So the majority of people go to commercial then?
Oh, yes. I shouldn't say most. A lot of residential designers don't typically get a degree.
Okay.
But commercial, I would say almost all of them have to have a degree to work for a firm.
You've got to have that piece of paper to say you're qualified. That makes sense.
So I chose to go the residential route. And so I wanted to work for a home builder that also had an on-staff designer, which I didn't think sounded like anything challenging to find, but it was. There were only two builders in the metro area that did that, and I really wanted to come to the metro area. So I came to work for Caleb McCaleb, and I worked there for my internship, and unfortunately, I didn't get to learn a lot about design, but I did work on the sales team. So I just really got to know the construction industry, and the superintendent at the time, he kind of took me under his wing, and he really taught me a lot about construction and took me to job sites, and it was a very good learning experience.
Was he surprised by how much you knew as well about the construction side of things?
I would say at that time, I mean, I had just
with like your backing growing up,
maybe like a little bit, but his knowledge was so far beyond mine, so it was. I learned so much from him.
Caleb and the whole family, they're super nice people, right?
Yeah,
the whole family
so nice.
are awesome.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun working for him.
Yeah.
So he was like, don't go finish at OSU, like stay here and finish at UCO. Because his wife was the designer, and she was very talented, and she also taught interior design at UCO. But I was like, no, I'm gonna go finish at Oklahoma State. So I did, but he gave me a job out of college, so I went to work for him right out of college, and then not like maybe a year later started my own.
All right. The first time I met him, we had a closing. A client bought a house in Outer Banks. Okay. One of those, like that little community, the gated kind of older community. When the client bought a house there, and the first time we met him was then. He was just couldn't have been nicer. Like so great.
That's cool.
And obviously they build great homes and plenty of neighborhoods on that kind of north side of town, right? So it was really, really cool. So you go home, you go back to school, you graduate, and then, like I said, a year later, after getting a job, you think, you know what? It's time for me to do my own thing.
Yes.
It's time for me to step out. I
was young. I was only 23, I think.
Okay.
Whenever I quit and started. 23 or 24.
Did you have a client base built up, or were you just like, I'm going for it. We'll see what happens.
No. Yeah. I was young and dumb and like luckily like ignorant enough to not, I knew that I could wait tables or bartend or something just to make ends meet if I had to, and I did. Yeah. For about at least a year. So I had like 2 very small projects. But I bartended at the Lazy E, and luckily that was just event to event, so it wasn't like a full-time gig, so I really got to dedicate. Someone gave me a really great piece of advice when you're starting a company. They were like, you're not going to have enough work to need an 8-hour day. So devote Monday through Friday 8 to 5 to whatever it is. And they're like, if that means you're doing marketing, if that means that you're knocking on doors, like whatever it is, work on your website, learn something in your trade, like do something to like build your knowledge base or just something. And I really devoted my days to that. every day. Even when I didn't have work, I would do something to further the business.
And obviously that advice paid off, right?
It did.
And
it did.
It's amazing, I think, back to that point, right? How much time we actually have. Mm-hmm. And when you really assess the time that you're spending, you realize how much time you're wasting doing absolutely nothing practical or nothing that's
Especially
furthering
now.
your business.
I think social media now is such a time waster.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm 15 minutes early to a meeting, I'll just sit there. And then also like checking emails on your phone. I mean, I could check emails all day, every day, but it's like, you know, you rewind 15 years ago and you really didn't have that.
Right.
But you also didn't have those. That can be very advantageous to building a business too. You know, so you have to just know to utilize those things, but also not let them waste your time.
Right, for sure. Where was that first solo project that you had then when you started your business?
So there is a lady, I still love her to this day, in Cushing, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I had some like little things, but
like
the
rooms,
guy that
separate rooms and redesigns and stuff. Yeah.
Decorating projects, I would say. But the gentleman that I worked for in college, John Willman, the guy that owned the cabinet shop, he did renovations also. And so I called him, and then we had done, Ron Walker he was a really high-end builder in Stillwater for many years. And so I called those two people and I told them what I was doing. Yeah. And so John called me with the renovation in Cushing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're always out of your league when you're first starting out in something. But this lady, we took her house down to studs and built it back. And it was just such a fun project. She was all business. She was a CPA, like very matter of fact. But we had so much fun together. And we just developed a friendship and really created something special. Yeah. And I mean, if you do a good job in whatever industry you are, it's just, I always let word of mouth be my number one marketing tool. And I never have hurt for work. I did in 2008, I had to take a contract with the state of Oklahoma, and I did public libraries for a few years. It was awful. It was the worst. Awful.
Yeah. Because you probably had guidelines, right?
Oh.
You're like, it's got to look like this color. It cannot be personality, right? You can't put your design touch on it. It's I have to go do this.
I just don't like the commercial design field. I don't like any. It's sterile. Like I don't like the furniture. I don't like anything about it. I appreciate a good commercial space when I go into it, and I appreciate it, but I do not want to do hospitality it's not my jam. No. So I just had to follow guidelines. I had to do all kinds of things by strict code, but on top of that, librarians are unique people.
Very.
So I had to work with them, and then also the grant money, the ladies in charge of the grant money. It was just, I'm thankful for the work. I'm thankful it's over.
Yeah. It's a learning experience, right?
Yes.
And it reminds you why you don't want to do commercial.
Yes.
Which is very valuable.
Yes. But God gave me a way to keep afloat, so.
That's awesome. Opportunities, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we've all got to do things that we, like I said, for to keep us afloat. It's a great project. It serves its purpose. You've done it, so you can say you've done it. But now you don't have to worry about doing it again. From back to what you said, working hard and word of mouth business, kind of lets it go from there. You're right. Like you let your work speak for yourself, don't you? The harder you work, and especially if you're good at it. I mean, if you work really hard and you're not very good at it, they'll tell you, and you won't have any business.
Right.
But by doing that, it's kind of difficult, right? Because you're waiting for the phone to ring, aren't you? Because of someone who's seen your work or a friend.
First,
right. Now, but it's a snowball effect, isn't it? Like once it starts and your word gets out there and you do more projects, you've got people effectively working for you saying you should hire because she's awesome, because she did this great work. Look at my house. Like they become your sales force effectively when they invite people over and their friends say, oh my gosh, who did this?
And your referrals are so much more qualified than like seeing your name on a billboard.
Right. It's a different sell.
And touching on something that you just said, I was not always awesome. Like when I went to art school, when I went to design school and I took my first art class, I had never picked up a pencil. My brother drew, but I never did ever. So my first drawing class was rough, but I actually had a teacher in design school, and she told me our freshman year, she's like, sister, I just don't think you've got it. Like you really need to like really think about this, because this was like you're about to spend 2 years of your life pre-design school application.
Right.
And I'm like, nope, this is it. So if you're working towards something and it's not coming natural, but you want it bad enough, I just think hard work goes a long way.
Definitely. So word of mouth kicking off, businesses coming in, phones ringing. And then I guess you're off to the races. You kind of develop your style then, right? Like you develop your kind of
Not
thing.
at first.
Not at first?
No, I would say I've been in business about 15-ish years, almost 16 years.
Okay.
And I would say until Instagram really became a huge part of my business.
Yeah.
My style was whatever my clients asked of me. So I did some really ugly things for a long time.
But you did what your clients asked of you.
I did what my clients asked of me. But Instagram kind of gives you the freedom to showcase your favorite things,
right,
which kind of like brings those type of clients to you.
Okay.
So Instagram has really helped me kind of niche myself into, my passion in life is rural America.
Yeah.
And so it's really helped me find my cabins in Broken Bow, like find my ranches, find my, farmers and ranchers out there. I do love to do a good modern project here and there. I'm really weird because I like super modern Scandinavian, and I like really
bright lights, glass, steel work.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
White spaces.
But I also love ranching communities and all of the lodgy kind of things.
Everything that you see in the background if you're watching the video.
Yeah. Scandinavian Western is what I say my personal style is. So, when I really had enough money that my husband and I started building, he's a builder, so we got to build things that we loved that you really didn't see in the market. We were rewind 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we built a white farmhouse, and it was one of the first white farmhouses in Oklahoma. And I remember telling my painter I wanted it 7006 extra white, and he called and he goes, I think there's been a mistake on this paint deck. And I'm like, don't make me second guess it, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah,
Arturo, don't do that to me. And so just do it. And fast forward, it's just a trend. And then when I wanted to paint the barn black, people are like, what are you doing? But now that's very common.
Yeah, because you pull in here over the little hill and you come down and you see this barn, you're like,
you'd expect it to be red or white, but not black. But now it's like a thing.
Right.
So we really love to kind of, you get bored of what you do all the time. So I really love to bring an edge to that and just kind of be a little bit forward thinking.
Right.
Well,
like you said, the great thing about Instagram is that, you see stuff, or Pinterest or whatever it is, you see these things from all over the world. And you're like, okay, and we haven't seen this in Oklahoma yet.
Yes.
Part of us being in the middle, and everything comes in from the coasts, right?
Totally.
But you get to be those first movers here.
Yeah.
To set that. And even now, they're building, back to McCaleb Homes, or, any of the big scale home builders in Oklahoma City that just build hundreds of houses a year. You're seeing them now.
Yeah.
Black, white, what painting,
all
blue
over.
house. There's a house in Arcadia that's currently for sale. It's all blue. The whole house is blue on the outside. And I think blue's my favorite color. So I was like, it's on 10 acres. I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But, like I said, 8 years ago, or 5 years ago, if you said someone just, blue and white farmhouse. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Is that from a music video?
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Now it's more accepted, right? Because
Totally.
people have social media and they get to see it around the world. Which for you on the design side, when a client comes to you and says, I think I want to try this, and you're like, yes.
Yes,
now
or hard no.
Right, well, yeah. Have we had any of those hard no's?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Have we had to politely speak someone out of an idea?
My clients, they laugh at me all the time because they're like, oh, we know when it's a no, because you're like,
it's written all over your face.
Yeah, I don't really hide my expressions.
Yeah.
But I tell them, I'm like, you pay me way too much money to let you do something that
right. You're paying me for my schooling and my experience, not for me to be a yes person.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a yes person.
Yeah.
And sometimes they want to do things that I'm like, I'm not sure, but maybe. And so, it's like putting a giant puzzle together, and it either works in the end, or there's something that just, I know you really wanted that, but we can't mix that in there. So I really do try and bring all of their personality, husband and wife and family, into a project.
Yeah.
Which I love that.
Definitely. You mentioned just previously about Broken Bow, and then we've both, I stayed at the cabin that you designed. Yes. It was one of our videos that we did recently. Beautiful cabin. Didn't get to use the hot tub, sadly. But
that makes me sad for you.
I played a lot of pool down there, and my videographer, he's not going to like this, but I beat him in pool every game. He was not very happy with that. He's like, "Are you any good?" And I was like, I'm okay.
So you lied.
I kind of hustle. Well, I'm okay to people back home, because we play pool all the time. And the thing is, people don't know this, European pool tables have smaller pockets than the US pool tables.
So you have a wide advantage here.
Exactly. So I come here, I'm like, it looks like sticking.
It's like a basketball hoop.
Massive.
That's your...
Yes.
Okay.
So I kind of ran the table.
How much smaller are the pockets?
Almost half the size.
No way.
Oh, yeah. It's much harder to play. Much harder. You can't, like... out here when you play pool and you kind of run one down the pool table, like down the side of it. Back home, it's very tight. You can't really do that. Whereas here, you're like, I can easily do that. Like,
look at that. I won't.
So never play European at pool.
I won't. Yeah,
it's a life lesson for you and people listening. No. To current, we're talking about the Broken Bow then, and that's not just the first one you've done. You're working on one right now.
That wasn't my first. I had done one prior to Rio Vista. It was called the Vaquero, and that has recently sold. And then Rio Vista was one of the larger ones that I had done. And then I have one in a little town really near there called Ringgold right now. And the people that go to Ringgold are more for fishing. Like they only go there to fish. Yeah. But we're doing a sweet little couples forever home there. Awesome. And then I have another large one for the owner of Rio Vista. Down on the river, they bought the Boy Scout retreat ranch there. Gotcha. And so that place is incredible. So we're renovating and adding on. And then they just told me yesterday that they want to do a series of tiny homes on the river, which will be really, really neat. And then I have a really large 7-bedroom, 7-bath in really close to town in Broken Bow. There's a really cool neighborhood. My directions are challenged down there, but it's like north of town, just barely, where the new Lambert. There's a store going in up there. Yeah. There's a really cool neighborhood, really close to town. So I have a few going there right now.
It must be nice for you as a designer to get these, to go to Broken Bow and have like. I mean, the cabins down there, they're all unique, right? They're all different. They're beautiful.
I mean, people bring their A game down there.
It's really, really cool because there's probably nothing I'd say probably, you probably haven't done something like that in Oklahoma before, maybe? Being like on the river and just that scene and like the willingness to like, this is not Oklahoma. This is Broken Bow. This is a cabin. This is like, push the boat out. Yeah. This is kind of our idea, but run with it.
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't say... There are a lot of vacation communities, but nobody brings their A game like they bring it down to the Ho-Chi-Town area. I mean, every property on the market is very well done. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not going to compete with the market down there if you're not
right. They've set that standard, haven't they, already?
Yes,
and now
they've set the standard, and it's high. The bar is high.
Yeah.
So, which is really fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially, like I said, from your perspective, you get to go and do your best work, right? And know that, hey, they want to make it better than the next one, or that they're competing for, and there's plenty of competition down there as well, but you're competing for travel dollars and to bring people in, not just from Oklahoma, but Dallas, Texas, wherever. Yeah. It's a neat, and for people listening, if you haven't been down there, it's totally worth going.
It is. It's
any time of year.
It's Colorado and Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, and it's 4 hours away drive? It's nothing.
Yeah, from here,
Yeah, and the first 3 hours on the highway. Last hour of it is actually through the woods, which is actually the fun part.
Spotty self-service, like
self-service. You don't need that.
You're destined for an actual vacation because nobody can call you anyway. So
it's brilliant.
The big one that I have going right now, though, we're really trying to bring something new to the area. So we're bringing Becky Owens has an awesome Instagram page, and she's a big designer. And we've taken inspiration from one of her gorgeous places. So we're bringing something a little different, we hope, to that area. It's not new to the whole world, but new to that area. So I'm excited for that guy to come.
Yeah, no doubt.
Come to full life.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, just that place in general, isn't it? And like I said, to do something different, even down there is way different to most of the stuff in the metro. Coming back, though, to the metro, what, doing kind of the work that you do, it's not just your average cookie cutter home, right? It is in the luxury field where people have the ability to push the boat out and design something that they want. For the most part, it's probably like their goal home, their forever home.
Yes.
They want to make it
forever homes. They
want to make it right and perfect. And you have the amazing job of getting to bring their vision and match your vision to light. I can't imagine the satisfaction and that you get from just seeing the smiling faces from them when it is done and they walk in the door. And like, oh my gosh, this is insane, Or they get family over and you just get raving reviews from their family, and back to word of mouth business, it helps.
I get to see a lot less of that than I wish I got to see a lot more of that. But a lot of times it's, you don't get to see the reactions, but, you get feedback and stuff, which is fun. But yes, no, that is a very gratifying.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll push people. It seems to be where I push them to kind of go outside their comfort zone. Tends to be a lot of times like their favorite things.
Right.
So they're like, ew, you know how you really made me branch out
really
of my
want to do
box,
this,
but this is my favorite thing. I get that a lot. So,
well, I think it's because people aren't aware of the stuff that's out there, right? Especially the people who are living in these houses. They're successful people. For the most part, they don't have time to doom scroll the internet to find out what they want and what they don't want. They're just unaware of it because they're busy building their business or doing whatever or doing their work.
I think people are scared to be bold, but I always tell them, I'm like, if you don't want to look like everyone else, you have to be bold. You have to make. We don't want everything to be like oh gosh, where do I look?
Right.
But we want to make statements.
And it's got to feel like a home as well, isn't it? Not
absolutely.
like a museum piece or a commercial space that you walk into and you're like, I don't want to do anything in here because it'll look out of place, right? You got guests coming over and you don't want them to feel like they're tiptoeing around.
Right.
It's got to feel like a home too.
Yeah, I'm very big on that, especially now that I have 3 small children. I'm like, we have to design things that people can live in. Yeah. And I don't want you to be scared for your kids to come home and mess something up. You know, it's just you have to feel it.
It's got to be real, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be real.
Any projects that you have either coming up or actually no, there's 2 separate questions here. If you get to work on something, it might even be the next project. What haven't you done yet that you want to work on?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
What haven't I done?
Yeah. If someone comes to you and says, I'm building a house, and you get to pick it, do it just, I mean, it could even be your personal house. What's coming up or ways that you'd like to do things?
I will say my personal house, I have bits and pieces of it worked out in my mind, but it's going to be more than likely, unless life brings us some huge curveball where we retire and stay for the long haul. Right. It's on this property. So I'm really not rushing that house because I haven't worked it out mentally yet, but I really want a lot of Santa Fe elements, a lot of New Mexico Santa Fe elements, but really clean line rustic. Okay. So I kind of want to weave a lot of different visions that I love into that home. But I'm not rushing it. So that is going to be one that I'm excited for. We're hoping to start it in maybe a couple of years, but I'm not mentally ready yet. Yeah. But I did have some people come. There's a few cool modern mountain kind of homes here in Oklahoma, but I think the lodgy mountain resorts that you see. Kind of Restoration Hardware has kind of a ski resort line right now. I love that clean modern line with like the really rustic woods, but like still integrated with your bright whites, but they're more of like a soft tonal white, you know? I just think that's like an incredible look. I would like to maybe design some like lighting lines, or maybe like, this seems silly, but outdoor lighting is so, like, outdoor chandeliers do not exist in our industry.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want anything very large at all, you've got like 6 in the industry to pick from. It's astonishing how small it is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why is nobody doing that?
Right.
And I find that perplexing. So I don't know, maybe someday I might collaborate with some furniture makers or lighting makers and maybe just do some private label stuff.
Yeah. I love the one that we have in here, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's
so this
cool.
is one. Antler Works did it, and I've done work with them for 15 years now. And I came to he sold it, but the guy that owned that originally, his name was Sean. And I said, hey, Sean, have you ever done a black elk chandelier? And he was like, once. And I was like, well, how did that go? And he said, well, it was for a goth bar in New York City. And I was like, well, that's not really the vibe I'm going for, but I think I want to try it. And he's like, I think we should do it.
Yeah.
So I love how it turned out. I told my husband it was large, and I was like, I made it small enough to come in these double doors behind you.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, yeah, but it showed up on the truck, and they had to get it up here. And he called me, and I was like, oh no, are you mad? And he was like, no, it's awesome. He's like, it's just so big.
Just it looked much better when you hang it up, right?
Yeah, and
but
you
on
put
the
it
floor,
up here, and it's like, well, that's not that big.
Right.
But when it's sitting downstairs and you have to figure out how to get it upstairs, it was quite large.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, you know, just the style that you have here, and I know you mentioned your husband's a home builder, and you know, I have never met your husband, but I assume he loves hunting and just the style of things. So for him to have a wife that wants to make a chandelier out of elk, like,
and that's more me driving that than him, for sure.
I'm sure you were super just happy to be like, you know what, I'm really lucky, because there's most hunting husbands out there that want to mount a head, and the wife's like, you're out of your mind. It's not happening.
And I'm like, yes,
let's do it.
Yeah. I'm always the husband's advocate of bringing the dead stuff inside. And the wives are like, oh, okay, if she says it's okay.
Yeah. And we can make it a piece of the house, right?
I have a really cool project at Stewart Ranch is the oldest ranch in Oklahoma.
I want to get down there and meet,
I can hook you up with them. They are the kindest, coolest
What's
people.
What's the lady's name?
Terry.
She was Terry. She was just inducted in the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes. Yeah. She's fabulous.
And
I just
Clay
met her. Clay.
Yeah,
so Clay is my client because he runs the outfitting business.
Amazing.
And then Robert does more of the cattle and the horse side.
Gotcha.
So they're just incredible people. Great story. They'd be great for the podcast. But we're doing a lodge for the outfitting business, and it's going to be really, really neat. But they're so funny because he's like, I don't want it to be a typical lodge that you would think of, like a hunting lodge. Like, I don't want dead stuff everywhere. And I'm like, I think that I want more dead stuff on the walls than he does.
Trophies.
And I'm like,
I mean, come on.
I'm gonna like fight for your trophies, you know. But he's like, I don't want it to be, I don't want it to
look like every other lodge that's out there.
Yeah, he's like, I really want something different. So I'm excited to collaborate. And
I never met them, but I share a lot of Clay's photos to Instagram because he takes great photos.
Yeah, he takes great photos. He's very talented.
Has the Instagram? Is it City Wife Ranch Life or something like that?
Is that his wife?
Okay, I thought it was.
That's his wife, yeah.
There's a great photo that she posted. I don't know who took it. I don't know if Clay took it or she took it, of just like the kind of driving the cattle down the street. And it's
probably
fantastic.
Clay. I don't think she really does photography. He does really good though.
But yeah, what a place down there, right?
Such a place.
S7,
really
right?
Cool place.
S7 Ranch, I think is what they call it. Stewart.
Yeah.
I've got to get down there.
Or 7S or something like, incredible place. Gosh, there was something about that place that I was going to tell you. Oh, Terry's mom. You walk into Terry's house and it's so cozy and it's so homey. It's a large home, but it's so cozy. But Terry's not so much into interior design, but she appreciates it. And so you walk into her home and her mom, which is in her 90s now, she's just collected these things for Terry over, I mean, you can tell their life has just been cultured and it just has a story. They didn't just, you know, go to Mathis Brothers and buy all of their things.
Yeah, this stuff has been used and it has a purpose.
Yes. And so she has incredible antiques and like an art collection, and their ranch just really tells a story, which is really cool. I'm awesome. Honored and flattered to be working on that ranch.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and see it. I've got to get down there because Shannon at the Hall of Fame told me that when she went down to visit, and I think they did the interview with Terry when she was being inducted, she just said, this war woman, you got to meet her, she's awesome. Talked about, you know, which cowboy hat do I need to wear today for the interview, and just such a really cool person. They're and just, honestly real people, real hardworking family.
Very humble too. I mean, you walk around and it's like they don't point them out, but like they're on the cover of like all the magazines. Like, it's like, I mean, they're very unassuming and humble, and they're just great people. That's why I love working in the ranching world with my ranching communities, because the people are just salt of the earth.
Yeah, it's, I mean, for me, I never grew up around it. I mean, people in the UK, they farm, but not nowhere near to the scale they farm out here. But I think a lot of people watch, what's that TV show that they watch?
Pioneer Woman?
No, the ranching TV show with Kevin Costner and...
Oh, Yellowstone.
Yeah, you watch the Yellowstone and you're just like, I want to be a cowboy now.
Yeah, right? It's not all that dark.
Right.
Yellowstone is pretty dark.
It is pretty dark, but
but it is cool. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. Going forward then, future projects, what kind of like do you want to, you know, where would you like to take your business and your kind of vision and style over the next few years? I know you mentioned obviously your personal house is a goal to do over the next few years, but what about yourself as as your business?
Right now I feel like right now I'm kind of on the top of my game. Like all of my dreams that I had like wished to come to fruition. I mean, I'm just blessed with some really cool projects right now. I mean, like I feel like everything I have going right now is like once in a lifetime projects. And so I'm in a really good spot, and I don't know how it could go up from here, but
we just keep working hard, right? And it just kind of happens.
It's like doors just keep opening, and you know, we're in a very fortunate spot to get to be very choosy about what projects we take. And I just tell people, I'm like, it's really important that you really like me as a person, and that we really get along, because we're going to spend a lot of time together, and we're going to spend a lot of money together, and we have to be on the same page for that, you know? Yeah. And so, I don't know, work's just really fun. My kids are really fun right now. We just have some fun stuff going on. So
how old are the little ones?
2, 4, and 6.
Oh, so I mean, it seems like you've been mothering and parenting clients your whole life. So, you know, having 3 kids, 2, 4, and 6, it's just normal now. There's no big deal.
Just coddle the herd.
Yeah. Do you have boys and girls?
My youngest is a boy. So this is kind of funny. I wanted all boys.
Yeah.
I always thought I was going to have all boys. When I found out the first one was a girl, I'm the terrible person that like, thank you, Jesus, for a healthy baby. But I cried for like 2 weeks because I wanted it to be a boy. So come the second one, and I'm like, he's going to be a boy.
Yeah.
So I got another girl. So I was like, okay, we're going to try again. And my husband's like, what if it's another girl? Like, he didn't care, but I cared. I was like, I want a baby boy.
It's usually the total opposite.
Oh, it's usually the opposite, but Mama wanted a boy. Yeah. So 3rd time's a charm. I got my baby boy, and he is the biggest daddy's boy. Yeah. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. And I'm like, okay.
You'll come back. I'm just waiting for it.
I'm just patiently waiting. Oh, he is obsessed with my husband. Like, obsessed. He's a great dad, so I get it, but
you just want him to, you just kind of waiting for that time. He says, come on, Mom, let's go do something. Right?
All my mom friends, they're like, isn't that baby boy that, and I'm like, no, he doesn't even care. Like, he doesn't even care if I'm around. he's just a daddy's boy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You'll be able to play this back whenever he does.
Yeah, train, I will.
You know,
one time in his life, he's going to come to my side.
Yeah. That's awesome though, to be in that, like I said, all that hard work's come to where you're at, you know, things are going great, the phone's ringing, or, you know, like I said, you're in a fortunate position to turn down clients, or even just say, hey, I'm not ready right now, I'm busy. But, you know, to have these clients all across the state too, which is awesome. You know, you just mentioned going to the ranch, which is in Waurika and Broken Bow, and even up here, and that must be really special. Finishing up then, what is that like, basically? I get it is proving your parents wrong, right? And just saying, like, you know, I'm sure they're super proud.
Not in a bad way, but
no, yeah,
yes.
You know, just kind of like, it's that chip on your shoulder motivation, right? That gives you the extra edge that just says to mom and dad, you know, I know you didn't want me to do this, but like, you know, because it was, and you can see why it wasn't a thing growing up.
It wasn't
for them,
a thing.
In
their defense, it wasn't a thing.
Fictional character for them.
It was somebody's wife might do this on the side kind of a thing, but like, you know, we just grew up in a place where you didn't spend money frivolously. And let's be real, like my job, let's be real, like everyone can live without a designer. Sure. You know, I mean, if you're going to cut the fat of your budget, I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
So it's, it astonishes me.
Yeah. That's
awesome. No, not in a bad way, but they are they've always been supportive.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, who knew? There's just not another time in history that I could have chosen to go into a career that blew up simultaneously.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, just like, in a way, being at the base of a
great timing.
Yeah. Just the timing was just great.
You're on the rocket when it took off, basically, right?
Yeah, just on the very tip.
Last question, finishing up then. Obviously, Instagram's a huge push of your business. You have a great following. You know, you spend a lot of time and you value your Instagram. I'm always talking about this, people who have great followings on Instagram that value it. You know, how important for you is it? What is your kind of like, you know, obviously you spend more time in it and you value it, but what is like your process, right? Do you take time into what you're posting, what you're talking about? I mean, it is an asset to your business. It's not just something that, I have an Instagram page like other businesses. Yeah.
So I was really into Facebook, for a while. And several years ago, I had some younger girls work for me and they're like, oh, Facebook is out, Instagram is in. And I'm like, I don't even know how to work it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, I didn't like it and I didn't want to do it, but I listened to them. Yeah. Because I'm like, the younger generation is going to be dominating what happens next. And now I much prefer it. It gives you so much more opportunity than Facebook. Yeah. I mean, just crazy. And it really puts your business in its own like league, you know, I mean, it has changed my business. I mean, totally changed my business. So it's really allowed me to, as they call it, like I'll go to classes on Instagram and it's really allowed me to quote unquote, like find my tribe. And that's my tribe of followers, people that, people really want to get to know you as a person. So they want to know like where I live, what my kids are like, and so that's where my stories come into play. The real side of the story. And then you see the pretty stuff. So I am not one of the people, I probably should, but I don't like plan out my post like for weeks in advance. I'll kind of like whatever's going on in my life that day, I'll kind of write about it in a post and weave in, some pictures. And I find that I get as much feedback on what the story is on that post than the picture. Yeah. And I find that fascinating because... Yeah, because and that's because you've probably always done that from day one and you've always shown the people who follow you expect that. Right. Yeah. If you were to post a picture and you just said a caption that was 3 or 4 words, they might think something's wrong. You might get a message saying, hey, is everything okay? Rather than you saying, hey, they use it as a blog style with photos, right? I don't know if it's a fluke, but my new assistant, she's tried to make a couple of posts. She's like, I don't know how to sound like you. And so the posts haven't performed very well. And she's like, I mean, I just really think it's like people know it's not me. And so that doesn't seem to work. Yeah. But luckily I enjoy running my Instagram page. My husband probably I do it at night when I crawl in bed to watch TV.
Yeah.
So he's probably like, oh, geez. But he also
But you value it. It's important.
Yeah.
There could be times that you get into bed and you're like, for even a week, you're like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But then you're like,
I do.
No,
I have weeks
and
and I'm like, I'll have periods where I'm like, I'm not feeling it. And so.
Well, that is the way that you do it, though, isn't it? That's the good thing. It's you, isn't it? And I think the whole purpose of it is you get to show who you are, your family, your kids, your life, so that people following you actually get to know who Brett is, rather than, it's just a page I follow because it posts cool design pictures.
Yeah.
You know, when they read the caption, like you said, you probably have a split. You have people who read it and care, or you have people who just like the design stuff that you post.
Yeah. When you go to schools on Instagram, they're like, test trial your audience, because some audiences will gravitate to the 3-word post.
Right.
And some will gravitate to your lifelong paragraph. And mine are very into my paragraphs.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome.
I mix it up, but
well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
This has been great.
Honored for you to ask. Thank you so much.
Like I said, can't wait to check this place out. It looks awesome.
Well, I'll give you the grand tour.
And I'll definitely post some pictures when the episode goes live of this spot, because it's. I'm a huge lover of green. And a plug for my friend. I have a friend of mine back home who has an Instagram page called Green Over Tan.
Oh.
And it's like the greatest follow ever. And in like the last 2 years, he's almost got 60,000 followers.
Oh, wow.
He's blown up. A lot of design stuff. He's into the car world. So we always joke about stuff like that. But his page and my page, because he's about to overtake me. And I've been doing it twice as long.
You have like 60,000 followers?
60.2, I think now.
Wow.
That's nuts. And some people know it's a Welshman. Some people don't. I think most people probably don't, because I don't put myself on it. Because it's more of a theme, isn't it, rather than like me. But yeah, thanks so much, Brett, for sharing some stories.
Thank you.
Just it seems like that without even knowing we've seemed to have crossed paths. I didn't know I'd stayed in State of Rio Vista. I didn't know you designed that. And I did say some really nice things in the video. And just talking about Clay and Terry, everyone down there, and just working with them. So seems like we've definitely crossed paths or worked together.
When he opens
somehow.
the lodge, you'll have to go. That'd be a good time to do it.
Finally, though, for people listening, remind them of your Instagram page, and then I guess your website as well.
It's just Designers Brew Instagram, all one word, obviously, and then same for my website, designersbrew.com.
Awesome.
And then really Pinterest, everything is just that. So give us a follow.
All right. For everyone listening, I'll put that in the description. And we will catch you next episode.
Yes.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.